Council cannot delay until its next meeting this decision. This item was published a day later than the main agenda. However, this report was part of the agenda considered at the Strategy and Resources Scrutiny Committee on October the 10th of October. So it has been publicly available for some time, just not on the Council agenda on publication day. The recommendation of the Executive Council for Strategy and Transformation. The recommendations are set out on page 2 of the supplement agenda and also copied in the information pack, page 15. Please note that the appendices with the track changes, pages 25 and 28, are the one which the Council is considering. The Executive Council may introduce the item with up to 5 minutes.
Well, briefly, Mr Mayor, we've had a debate and a dialogue about about the question procedure of the city deal. One of the flexibilities is that if we make any changes, they have to, under the way that the city deal was set up before our time, go through each of the 3 councils, and thereby there's a very similar report. So the principle of agreeing a change is that it's being consulted on, and then it's going through each of the councils. So we had a discussion with Cambridge Past, Present and Future, FECRA, the Cycling Campaign, Smarter Cambridge Transport, and a couple of parish councils about the procedure. And what this procedure does is that it changes it so that we require questions 3 days in advance. We make a commitment to getting the agendas out so that people can obviously see them beforehand and have time to judge what questions they want to raise, but it does mean that we can actually improve on the answers. I think it was commented at the last City Deal meeting that we had 25 questions, and clearly if you've only got 24 hours and you've only got a couple of members of staff, and we had some really interesting questions, some of them are not going to be answered as fully as we want. So I specifically, as chair of that meeting, had to record 3 questions that were going to be answered after the meeting. Obviously some verbal reasoning before. So essentially that is the purpose of the change. It's a useful change to improve the dialogue. As Mr Carpen said earlier on, if you actually get the opportunity to ask questions a bit further in advance, there's more dialogue possible. That's changed, Mr Mayor.
Is there any debate? Councillor Vick.
Mr Mayor, I think that it's wrong to say that although a number of outside organisations were consulted about this change and liked it, that this addresses the whole of their concerns about the way the City Deal meetings are held. I think that straight away I want to say that I think it's absolutely appropriate that the procedures that are used here evolve based on experience, and I absolutely agree that if more time for answers to be prepared results in the answers being better, then we should certainly do that. And that part of this proposal is to be thoroughly welcomed, and it's been very clear that some of the answers that it's been possible to give with very little time are really rather poor. So this is absolutely the only way up on this part of the proposal. But there are 2 other aspects to this which I want to speak to. The first is that supplementary questions are not permitted in the way that the City Deal allows public participation in its meetings. I raised this at the Scrutiny Committee, and as the report to full council indicates, the proposal that we raise the matter for a future agreement, not blocking this agreement, with our partners in the City Deal, was voted down inexplicably by members opposite. There was, though, a response from the leader that he would pursue the matter in the way that I had suggested. So I'd like to know, as part of this item, what actually is the answer. We have a vote from members opposite to kill the idea of supplementary questions, and we have an indication from the leader that he is willing to take that up on behalf of members. The second issue is the fact that, as well as changing things so that we might get better answers with more research to public questions, at the same time, the amendment narrows the possibility of questions being asked at all. And in particular, it makes a decisive diversion away from questions being asked about items that are not already on the agenda of the meeting in question. And the importance of this is that a lot of very rich contributions to the City Deal, in particular at the Assembly, have come from people who want to ask questions and make suggestions about things that are not on the radar screen of the City Deal but should be. And with this change, we're making that less possible, only possible if it's necessary because it's urgent. Well, it's rather difficult at any point in time to make the point that something that should be on the radar screen but isn't is actually urgent. And I certainly hope we don't wait until the time it is urgent before that sort of contribution can be made. We know that there are serious problems in the way the City Deal dialogues and engages with the public. And the public question made the point earlier. So it seems to me that these two things being left undone, one, the provision for supplementary questions, which allows a member of the public to actually come back on what he or she has heard, is allowing something of a conversation. And it seems particularly important when lots of people that you meet in the street are willing to tell you what the City Deal should be looking at and isn't. It seems a pity that we're turning our face away from that. And the biggest concern I have is that both of these features, supplementary questions and asking them about items that are not on the meeting's agenda, are both things that we provide for in our own council. And we've had them this evening. So why would we not want to push these issues with our colleagues in the City Deal? It seems to me to have missed the moment when we are looking at improving the way these things work, letting it pass and not doing something about it. And I really look for some indication from the leader that he is willing, whatever happens in votes at the scrutiny committee, to take these points on board and try and get an agreement with our council partners. It should not be all one-way traffic. We should not just have to accept these things because it hadn't occurred to our partners. We can change their opinion.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Herbert?
Well, as I said, Councillor Pick, I would discuss this with the chair of the Assembly. There is a proposal which is in front of us. It's not feasible at this point to amend this because we've got parallel proposals going through three councils at the same time. If he saw how I chair it, then, and I'm sure he chaired it with some flexibility, then at times there is an opportunity for supplementary questions. There is the discretion of the chair. The public speaker earlier on commented that we do get a lot of questions, and we allow up to perhaps 2 hours on occasions for questions. So the capacity to handle the series of questions that we might have and then deal with the rest of the business is finite. Councillor Cantrell, I'm sure, would have liked to have stayed for the discussion on the Newnham part of the A428 and Camborne-Cambridge route, but he wasn't able to, and that was just the nature of the meeting. And he wasn't able to because we had nearly 2 hours of public questions. So I think it is down to the discretion of the chair, and also on Mr Mayor, in terms of particularly on the Assembly, there is the flexibility for the Assembly to take items that are not pressing or the same as items that the board is taking. So there is the opportunity to raise other issues, and that in part lies with the Assembly. So I will talk to my colleague, and I will continue to use the discretion I use. Council wasn't there for the period of the meeting later on when I actually took questions from the floor during the item, simply because the local liaison forum and the City Deal Assembly hadn't raised some of the issues that residents thought they should have. So at times we are flexible. There are clearly at times people at such meetings that feel that we shouldn't be going ahead with a particular proposal or doing something different, and not everybody at the end of it is happy, but we are determined to have good process in terms of giving people full say. And if you were at the last meeting of the City Deal Board, I think you'd have thought that.
Thank you. I will now move to the vote. Can I see all those in favour of the recommendations? Please show.
23.
And those against? Thank you. I'm going to take agenda item 5 and then we'll have a short break.